All right.
I need a second mouse.
You have a second mouse?
Do I need one? Because like,
There's one right there. Will that work? This is the 2020, the first dev session of the 2022 year. Wait, I give up. Intro. I'll label it when it's done.
so yeah, because it's not showing up on there, but it's showing up on here. So escape. It's weird because it steals my mouse inputs for this, but it also steals it for this.
Interesting.
Maybe if I stop sharing.
I'll close one of these and hope it doesn't fuck up the other.
It's not full screen. Still sharing. Resume sharing. Oh, okay, well, that's weird. I got it to work. It's changed, but okay. That's good enough, I guess. And the scrap card is definitely not as strong. So what I did, make this little jumping game where you can't jump unless you jump all the way up. The idea,
Sorry, just because we have to use me as a mic, I'm gonna move this right here. That way.
and a little jumping game, and pretty much everything everything I did just came with the pre-built assets. I just modified them slightly, like in ways that you can just do with simple text strokes. So the first thing is this is a spawn character actor. What it does is it takes your default character and spawns it into the world so that you know, you can actually play the game.
Is that the spawn point?
Yes. So what it does is like every time you start the game, it will you can change this in settings, but it will just spawn one character and the player will naturally inhabit that character. So yeah, and then I guess first a little bit of just basic controls. You navigate using WASD, and then E is up, Q is down. And then you can focus on something, I think, by pressing Alt. No. You press some key to focus, maybe F. Yeah. You press F to focus, and then you can hold Alt to orbit around something, I think. If this thing will work properly. But yeah. Then you can also just grab with this one as the center mouse button to drag your camera, or you can turn, or you can use your right one and will like both change the camera and your position. So if you go back, you go back. If you go forwards, you go forwards, and then you can change your angle, whatever.
What are you doing to accomplish that?
So to do this thing, I use my index finger, so the left trigger on the mouse. And then to do this part, you just use I use my middle finger, which is the right trigger. And then to do this, which is just like infinite movement or whatever, use the center scroll wheel button on the mouse. And then, yeah, you use WASD to control. And then also you can scroll to go faster, or you can scroll down to go slower, so you can get much more fine control. And then there are basically 3 different modes. Never use this one because it's kind of just doesn't have any extra added value. This one, if I select an actor, one that's like visible. You're gonna show me? I seem to have hidden something. Oh, let's see. What it's supposed to do, I'm not exactly sure why it's not, is it'll pop up with 3 different arrows. One will point this way, one will point this way, one will point this way. And there are supposed to be 3 different movements for location as equivalent to these 3 right here. So the X, Y, and Z. And if I move this thing, I don't, that's weird. There it is. So if you see this one goes up, this one goes back and forth. This one goes left and right. The same thing for this. Maybe not. I guess I locked the orientation of the character somehow. But it doesn't really matter because you get the idea. You drag it up, it will move there. You drag it right, it will go there. Drag it this way, it will go there. Then there's the same thing with rotation. You can rotate it by some amount of degrees. You can rotate it this way by some amount of degrees. So like, what is it again? So you can do, this one is yaw. This one is, I believe, roll. And this one is pitch. So like, or those last two might be switched. It'll spin this way, like flat with your hands going down left and right, or up and down, or it'll roll right, roll left if you're facing it. Again, those are equivalent to these three here. If you look like that, like this, or like this. Oh, I know why. Stop. Because I'm playing. So if you look up, yeah, you can move this freely. And you can rotate it like so, about any three axes. And then this thing is the scale. So I'll make it bigger in any three directions you want. And if you want to do multiple at once, you can click on this. It'll select that plane. You'll scale in that plane, or you can select all three by clicking the little white, it's hard to see, a little white box at the bottom. If you click that, it'll scale all three of them at once. So if you look over at the scale on the right, that scales all three of them at once. And then you can, of course, have negative scale because that makes sense. And then, yeah, that's pretty much all of these three important things. This one, so in Unreal, there's a universal mapping and then a local mapping. What you can do is you can say, I want in the global plane a 0, 0 point. And so you put an actor at 0, 0, right? This is just how high up it is. And you say like, I want it at 0, 0. But then you're like, okay, but this has its own plane. And within this own plane, if it wasn't at 0, 0, let's say this is at 100 and 100. I want it to be exactly at the corner. You can switch it to a local coordinate plane from this object, and then it would spawn at 0, 0 from that local or the local coordinate system, which is really 100, 100. But you can just think of it as like, okay, it's the 0, 0. The corner of this map was all the way out at 3,000, 3,000, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Then
nice.
this one, yeah. So you can, like I said, with this coordinate system, there's snapping. So there's a built-in three-dimensional grid in Unreal, and you can either somewhere in here you can display that grid or not. Currently, if you look, it is displayed because there's little green tiles, but you can turn it off. This will make it so that how does it, like, will things snap to this naturally? If you drag it down, will it snap to it and then be held at that level?
Okay, cool. I just wanted to see if anyone joined or anything like that, make sure it's running smoothly,
Okay.
and it is.
Okay, well, that's good.
Anyway, continue. This
And
is
this
making sense.
in my mouse. Well, my mouse is a little behind, but it's not like
I can
so
still tell what
inordinately
you're-
behind that you can't even.
Exactly, and on the stream, it's
Yeah.
gonna be better.
Yeah. So that's this button. This one again, controls snapping to this grid, but there's also snapping to like a world grid. I kind of forgetting. No, this one, it'll snap its coordinates into multiples of 10. So like if I were to try go faster. Let's say I want to move this block, right? And I go to its world position and I say I want to move it over here. It will snap and only it's easier to see if I can set this to like 1,000 and this to 1,000 and this to 1,000. Okay. To 300. Okay. So if you look over here, if I try dragging this, like the minimum amount it'll let me drag, it'll move this green one in tens.
Okay.
And then it'll move only up and down in tens. So it snaps it to the coordinate planes according to what this thing is. This one, again, just snaps it to the 0, 0 grid at the bottom. And you can change what this snap is. You can set it to 1, 5, then you can set it way higher.
That's really nice. Actually.
Yeah. Usually 5 and 10, probably fine, 50 sometimes. I mean, you can also just turn it off. You can say, like, I don't actually care where it is exactly. I want to get the exact numbers. But then you get things like this where it's 999.7. I'm like,
Yeah, that's
can't you just
annoying.
snap to like 1,000 and it won't
Exactly.
snap because you turned off snapping. This thing is the same thing for angle. This thing is the same thing for scale. This one,
It's like that controls the speed of your
yes,
engine camera.
it controls the base speed. And again, you can scroll it up or down, depending on if you want to, if you use the zoom with, if you scroll with the scroll wheel. And if you set this higher, it'll naturally be faster at the start. Set lower, it'll naturally be slower at the start. And this one, you don't want to click because most of this will not be useful now. And by the time it's useful, you'll have forgotten this lecture.
Yeah.
This one. Okay. There's also perspective, so you can see top, bottom, left, right. And then to actually make it so it's useful to you, show this. I'll go into this probably another time, or if ever, because it's a lot of stuff that I don't really know and it's not going to be important for this. But you want to turn on lit or off. Yeah, turn the setting to on unlit, and this will show you like what it looks like from the top. And if you look really closely, you can see these are the blocks I placed in.
Oh,
But if you
yeah.
scroll out, it's hard because these are all the same color, but it's easy with the blue ones
Mhm.
because the blue ones are standing out against gray.
Yeah, they don't blend.
Yeah. And so unlit for that. And then all this stuff is, again, I could go into it, but in all likelihood, you're never going to use it. And by the time you do, you're going to have forgotten this.
Mhm.
This is just for being able to see more information. So you can like see, you can change your native field of view. You can show the stats. You can change the advanced settings. So to display more information, and you have like a debug menu over here naturally, depending on what you turn on or off. Then, okay. What do I want to do next? So I guess the next thing I'll go into is blueprints themselves. So if you go and you click on any actor, and this one you don't want to because these are source actors, like source actors, so they don't have native blueprints. Did I make this the blueprint level? I don't think so. Okay, well, whatever. I'll just create another actor, save it in blueprints. And it'll pop up with the blueprint. You can click on most actors to do the same thing. These ones, for whatever reason, are all written in C++, so it doesn't have a native blueprint to show. But if you go over here, there's three things. One is the viewport. This is what it looks like just in the world. It always spawns with a default scene root, which you almost never want to remove. It looks funky on this because it always has a little dot, but that's like the spot at which it will do any calculations, and it will just do it naturally. And if you delete it, it will not have any root or any position that it follows and will break.
Okay, so don't
Yeah.
delete the funny order.
Well,
Got it.
if you delete it, you better make sure you, like if you add a component,
You
say
have
add a
something
sphere,
that's
right?
a suitable replacement.
Yeah, I gotta add sphere up here. In
Just
place of
basic
the,
control so far, now we're exploring.
Yeah. And you know how I had that default scene view? I moved this one in place of it, but I didn't delete it because if I had deleted it, it would have broke. I had to like move this in place, and then Unreal will reorganize it for you. Then there's a construction script. This says what is it going to do at the very beginning when you press play. Then there's the event graph. You have a question?
Sorry,
I mean, go ahead. I don't care.
he just got the login to his PC working, so I was
Oh.
showing him how to boot up Unreal Engine.
You have to use Epic Games launcher to use Unreal Engine.
Epic Games made
On
Unreal.
on these computers, yes, because I don't know why they set it up in such a jank way, and it also won't natively recognize a file that you create.
Wait, so if I go home and I try to download Unreal Engine, will I have to download Epic Games launcher too?
Yes.
Yes.
But you don't have to open it from Epic Games Launcher. You can just
Yeah.
open it from Unreal.
You just need that to download.
Yes, which is a pain in the ass. And you also have to have an Epic account.
Oh, that I think I have.
Yeah, but I don't, and so I had to create one and was like, oh, here's all these things about games. I'm like,
Oh,
don't play
yeah,
any of those
okay.
games. Sorry. But yeah.
Okay, so.
So then there's the event graph. This is probably where 90% of what you're going to do takes place, aside from over here. So this part, there's three things. Event begin play is basically after you construct it. What do you want it to do? Only the very first time it's loaded. So if like you say you want it to like shoot fireworks only once, only when it's spawned, use this thing. I'll show you that in a second. And then if you want it to do something only when it like touches, use this thing. And this is like every single second. And from any of these, you can drag off. And there's a whole bunch of functions, enough that it's worth me not explaining any of it and you just figuring it out. Because you can do like multiply, you can do divide, obviously, you can do like get, world, position, you can get so many things just from this. All of which you have to go and research for yourself. Unreal has incredible documentation, but I'm not going to read it for you. Then there's, so this is the event graph right here. I guess you can add additional graphs. I have never used additional graphs. I don't even know what they would do. But for functions, you often create new functions. The three important things for functions are name. Why is cap lock so? So you'll have a name, then it will natively have.
Click X, I think.
You don't want to know this.
Oh, click cancel. You're trying to install for it. Click Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
So we booted up Unreal Engine and Epic Games Launcher and immediately asked to download Fortnite before anything
Yeah.
else.
Don't do that. Okay.
Click no X. And then launch in the top right. It's already downloaded for you, but you'll have to click install once you boot on your own PC.
Yeah. And it takes a good, depending on your speed, 2 to 4 hours of downloading Unreal 5.
Yeah, isn't it like 20 gigs or something like that?
I think it's 50.
50?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, Unreal Engine is 50 gigs?
Is it
I think so.
powerful?
Holy shit, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the file, the project that I'm making, or I was making for the research for the natural environment,
Mhm.
that project, I mean, I had a lot of extra things in and of itself was 70 gigs. Yeah. But I mean,
It's
80, yeah.
Yeah, it's a VR game. It's expected to be like that.
Well, part of it was just that I was lazy in deleting assets because I was like, let me import everything I need, and then I'm going to go through and cull everything I don't use. And
I have a problem.
what's the problem?
Click cancel. It doesn't need that.
Yeah.
Since you're not updating anything.
Are you sure?
Yes,
Okay.
And if it also pops up saying your graphics card's not powerful enough, ignore that as well.
ignore that. Yeah, they're powerful.
So I click games, then I click
Do you
what?
want him to start up a virtual reality one, or do you want him to start up?
Just start up with a new one because we're
Okay.
So blank?
Yeah, blank.
We're not putting virtual reality.
We'll do first person or not third person. Yeah, first
Oh my god, which one do you want?
person.
Okay, first person. And we're gonna convert to VR later.
Well, this is just like a test. I'm going to show you things, and so you can like
Okay.
act along with it, I guess, if you want.
Mhm.
The kegs? Are okay. And now it's gonna spend a very long time booting up.
Actually, not that long, because he chose the first person sent.
Oh, that's why mine took forever. Wow, that is a very stark difference. Okay.
Okay, wait, so how do I, if I
I'm gonna
click
get
one,
one.
what happens?
And click pause record since we're looking at other things.
What did I miss while I was out there getting my password for this PC?
Pretty much just basic controls.
Like,
Everything I just taught you, and then,
what was that? What's all that?
That's what we're learning.
Yeah.
That's scripting?
yes, that's blueprint scripting. So if you escape,
Shift F1? Or just escape? Yeah.
and then click on something.
Anything? Okay.
Sure. Yeah, click here.
Okay, click add, turn on this. Okay.
And then click repeat.
So
Yeah. There you go.
And so that one is, there's like 3 sections. we talked
Yeah,
about.
and
So this is-
for people on the recording, I'm just gonna go through it again and show you what,
Did you hit play?
yes, it should be
Okay.
playing. What we just did. So if you go over here, I just remembered this. This is the button you click to do the blueprint. And these 3 things do stuff which I don't want to go into because I don't really know, but you can just click select. It'll pop up with a version of that object. And you can, again, navigate using the basic controls, E, Q, W, A, C. This part, so this is the viewport, it's what it looks like. Construction script, once again, is what happens when you, like, how does it get made? Then there's the event graph. The event graph has 3 modes. One is event begin play. This only happens ever once for the actor. So if you want it to sparkle, only once when it's just begins to play, you click use this one. This one's probably the most prevalent, second most prevalent maybe. It's what happens when 2 actors overlap. And it happens on like a rising edge. If you guys know what a rising and falling edge event is. So this is a rising edge for a overlap. This one,
Can you explain what it is just in case?
yes. So let me go over here and go to
Kevin, have you
end
taken any of
overlap.
CSU's Unreal Engine courses?
Yes.
What?
Have you taken any of CSU's Unreal Engine courses?
I'm teaching this one.
Are
Well,
you
I'm a
taking this
TA.
course?
Yes,
Oh, holy shit.
yes.
You're a
So,
professional.
yeah,
I didn't know we were in such good hands.
yeah. So you don't even have to pay for the class. I volunteered to help you. And I also don't get paid. So great for everybody.
Free pizza.
Well, yeah, free pizza, I guess. Okay, I'm gonna go to that in a second. So this one, this is a rising edge. Let me draw. Can you like point it at the whiteboard for a second so I can draw on it?
Oh, wait, pointed toward the.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Yeah, point over here.
Oh, shit, I'm stupid.
Yeah. So, in computer science, there's like a state, right? So you have a state is constantly not happening. And then let's say you press a button. There's the rising edge, the pressed, and the falling edge. This part is when you press the space bar. This part is when you hold the space bar. And this part is when you release the space bar.
Oh.
Yes. So rising edge means when it starts. Duration is like when it's happening or the hold.
Is that the signal it takes for like, when you press the keyboard, that's the signal traveling to the CPU?
Well,
It is how the engine processes the different inputs. You can get down to the real.
well,
nitty-gritty.
it also just happens with your computer. Like, so you can press a button and it'll immediately happen, but you can also keep holding it, and it, depending on what the thing is, it will continue to hold. So like if I press spacebar in a text editor, as soon as I press it, it will press it'll put an input the space. If I continue to hold, it will keep inputting the space after a certain amount of latency related to the text editor, and then when I release, it will stop.
So rising and falling edge is not processing.
No, because it basically what happens to you is the computer sends. I need a better.
There's a red in front of the computer.
It sends a signal, like It says like now press, basically, is the equivalent. And then it will continue to send there will be a flag that's set by saying this now pressed. While the duration for which the flag is pressed oh my God. The duration for which the flag is like true is this holding. And then it'll get a signal that says like a release key, which means that okay, we gotta have some people join because we're at 10 minutes and
Want me to
10
join?
minutes. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, if you don't know.
And let me also join my phone. And it'll send a signal. This will be like a 1, or a 0. This will be a 1, and it'll say change state to released. And that's the start of this falling edge. The falling edge is called such because it takes some amount of time, like the fall of it's like the inverse. This is the press the key. But if you imagine like it's upside down, you press, you hold, you release, it goes back up. So yeah, that's the.
Yeah, we're all muted. I would,
Okay. I hope I have not been muted this whole time, because that'd be really bad.
it's picking us up.
Okay.
I can tell because I can't actually mute this thing, so I can hear myself slowly.
Why? Okay, we might interrupt the time limit for just a little bit after this. I don't exactly know when it'll end, but there probably is a gap. But this event begin overlap is this rising edge, which means like when it starts to do this overlap, then do whatever. There's a okay, so come on, event. So in Unreal, you can search for things like event and it'll check for all events. You can add your own events, which I'll go into probably sometime other than this. But you can add actor begin overlap, actor end overlap, event hit, and you can have on hit, you can have on clicked, on release, begin touch, touch enter, begin play destroyed, end play tick. So going through these, I don't know. This is something to do with like it resetting all its values. This is what I was just explaining to you, the rising edge, falling edge. This is pretty much the same thing. It doesn't really matter if you use this one or the begin overlap. This one only matters because like if you want to step onto something and then only when you want to step off it to have something happen. This one is damage, which has a Unreal has its own built-in damage system. So this checks for these things to its damage, its point damage, its radial, so like turn damage. So this is for like hover. This is stop hovering. This is when you click something. This is when you release something.
So can you show us one of these events in action?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
And are we using event begin play?
Well,
You can choose any
You
of
can
them.
choose, but I'm saying, what are you using right now?
right now, so I'll go that in a second, but this is just a list of them. So there's begin touch. This is for touch input. You can add your own event, or there's begin play, be destroyed, end play, tick. So obviously when it spawns, this is when it's destroyed. So like if you want to have some event only when it's destroyed, this is for hello, point over there, please. This is for when you stop playing. So like if you stop, this also counts for destroyed. This is for tick. So every single, you know where tick is. Every tick it'll do something. Okay, so there's what you can do is drag off of one of these. So let's say I want it to, on overlap, I want it to print. So from here, this white line means do, it's execute, right? So if I have print, I want print string. And there's from event begin overlap, there's two things. One is other actor. So it'll tell me what other actor am I doing. So I can have cast. So this will check. I mean, you can also have is instance of, I think. Is in instance. No. I mean, it does the same thing. It's just being Unreal. Unreal has a lot of things for you, but it's not always in the most like code optimally way. But considering you're going to be running something way more complicated, it doesn't matter. So like if I say, these are just the things that I came with because this is a downloaded version of the project for class. So if I go over here, I say first person projectile. So this means whatever your gun shoots, right? And I say, I want this to be cast, right? So event begin overlap. I want to check to make sure that this object is a first person projectile. If it is, I want it to print send, whatever. Right? And so if I compile, save, and I go and close this and go and go to my content drawer and place this down over here.
Wait, how did you place it down?
I'll get to that in a second. I just want to show you because you wanted to see like, what does it mean? I can't, did I delete my player control? I guess I deleted my player spawn.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's strange. Okay, here. Oh, I see what I did. So there's this up here. This allows you to detach from the player. Otherwise, you can play as the player, which I'm currently doing, right? So if I fire at this, oh, come on. Why? Maybe I deleted that part too. But if I were to say fire this thing, right? Like if I do this right now, it's not gonna print anything because I'm not a projectile, I'm a player. But if I were a projectile and I did this, it would print up in the top right corner, send, right? So that's what I just did with this blueprint.
I did exactly what you said and I'm firing at it. I'm not having anything print.
You sure?
Come here and see. I took it from the okay, well now it's not in the world anymore, but look. I'm gonna go into content drawer, right? And this is it, right? Or it might be it's one of these two. So it's either this or it's okay, that's not. So that means it's this. I'm gonna hit run. And
Around the corner.
oh,
Yeah.
that's gonna be so tiresome.
It's one of the ones that was like that stuck in a wall.
Hold on, let's try this one more. Content drawer.
Oh,
Right here.
also there's
In fact, I'll have it from all the way up to the stacks.
Working on this.
See? I'm not getting any messages.
Upgrade now.
either.
Upgrade to
See,
what?
like, if I go, it's this, right?
Oh, they want us to buy a Zoom plan. All right, I'm going to end this and then the second half will also be recorded.
Okay.
Okay, recording has begun. This is
Yes.
part 2.
Yes, so we couldn't get this to work. I'm not exactly sure why. It wasn't checking this event to begin overlap. You could have event tick or whatever. My guess is something to do with the way that we built it. But it's not really that important because you get the idea. Then over here, you have functions. You can name it. Name, should I spell? There's 3 important things with a function. One of them is if it's pure. That means, does this have to do anything, basically? Like, is it just math? Because if it's just math, it's pure. I don't have to call anything. I don't have to do anything. This can be called from anywhere statically, like it doesn't have to be executed to. So example, setting, you have to do something. I change a variable, does whatever. But if I were to do 1 + 1, that's pure. It's 1 + 1. Always the same answer. I don't care about any inputs. I don't care about when it happens. If you output from here, it will always work. Okay, so that's pure. Then there's inputs. There's 3 different things. One of them is you can have a default value. You can have a, so like if we, byte, integer. So there's pass by default value and pass by reference. Pass by reference, this is based off C++, so it does the same thing it does in C++. It's just that Unreal has built so many things around it. I don't know if it actually matters if you do pass by reference or not. Default value does what it says it does. You change this, it changes the default value. You have parameters, this will be the name that pops up. So if you like, we went over here and you look to, if we had over here, see how it has object, cast failed, add blueprint person as projectile. This is its own blueprint. It has, like, if you were able to, if you were able to go into it and like look at what Unreal had at its very base level, you'd find it looks a lot like this, where it has some input. It's called whatever the name is called. It then draws out, does whatever things. And then if you go over here again, you have outputs. You can have more than one output. You can have as many as you want. They can be whatever types you want. And so like, you know, if I were to have this node, which does nothing, and it takes in one parameter and returns 7 zeros, 8 zeros, it would show up as a block of text that says, here, I can even drag it in, right? Yeah, here you go. So it says, this is the execute. This is the fact that it's itself, which is kind of pointless, but whatever. This is the parameter, and these are the 8 input or output parameters. And this is the fact that we'll continue to do something from here. Yeah. Then there's macros. So a macro is kind of like a function, except no, because a function is actually a function. We call from wherever. A macro is basically like, here are these lines of code that I don't have to paste everywhere, but I'm going to use everywhere. Just write a macro. I don't know why it's called a macro, not something else. Could record like a shortcut or something, and we'll do whatever this section of code is the same way every single time, but without being like a full-on function that can be called from places and has special properties. Macro is just code within a function,
Yeah,
that you don't want to have to repeat. There's variables. Again, any type. There's these many types, and then there's all these types which are special types. So if I have an object and I want, let's say I have landscape, right? So all the first 6 or 8 or whatever are the most common. If you want something else, just search for it. And then you have to go through all these different ones and search for it. There's 3 different types. There's object reference, class reference, soft object reference, soft class reference. This is the one probably most useful to you because it references that specific object. This one references the entire category of landscapes and any abilities they have. Soft object references is when you want to call on something that may or may not actually exist. Soft class references the same thing. Then this thing allows you to see it. So like if I compile, save, if I go over here, right? It has this default. And then it has this new variable right here, which I just created right here, new variable 0. This is the same thing here. And by having this be visible or not, it changes whether or not you can actually see it here. Again, you can have default values, and then event dispatchers are their own thing that you're probably not going to use and are a lot of work. Yes. Any questions thus far?
Nope.
Do you have to get out of here?
Yeah, a little.
Do you want me to pause here and we'll continue another time, or because like basically, yeah, go ahead.
What do you think would be left to run over when it comes to basics?
What I just showed you is everything you will use to make the game, right?
Mm.
What I did,
Everything.
yes, everything. I mean, you would,
There's a lot more finer details. but
Yeah.
at the base level, that is. the
everything I
tools
just
that have
showed
been
you,
given.
yeah. Everything I did here to make this part, I just used scaling. I duplicated an object, I scaled it. You can do the same, you can do more, you can do less. It doesn't really matter.
I encourage anybody watching to watch like a short, like hour-long tutorial on, that just
Yes.
covers the same basics as this does. And then
Yes.
hopefully next week is gonna be a social meeting, maybe.
Mhm.
And then next week, we're going to start development on the actual game.
Yes,
And hopefully we'll be ready.
I mean, again, I'm not really sure how much more you guys want me to show you because the things Unreal has already has you able to control a character. So if you don't want to implement the ball rolling, you're already good. All you would do to make the void is create a death plane, which is very simple. You just have the event overlap with the character to destroy the character and restart. Then there's a thing called over here, there's place actors, which are all the basics. So if you go over here, select mode, where is this? Modeling, I think. No. But like there's a mode where you can place, there's like a whole bunch of different objects you can place. In that mode, there's basics. You just go over here, create a trigger box, which already has the trigger for a player on it. You just create that, you create a death plane, and then it's just repeating that simple stuff and placing blocks wherever you want in the world until you reach the end and you have some goal that stops the game, right?
Mhm.
So that's a fully functional game. The VR will plug directly into this and you'll just control the player the same as you would right now.
You
So,
just be able to look like
yes.
6 degrees of.
Yes,
vision.
you'll just be able to look.
Instead of a ball, do you just want to do a first person?
I was thinking, yes, the very first one we should do is just first person character, right? And then that's pretty much everything. So I don't know how much more you want me to teach you something per se.
I think now it's more about practice.
Yes, there's a couple more modes I can show you next time. This goes into like more detailed stuff than for the game, but I think that's everything that you need to know right now. People on chat, if you're ever watching this, you can go back and go through. If you have any questions, you can reach out on Discord. Otherwise, I think that's it for this meeting. Yeah.
Sweet. Meeting adjourned.